Welcome to the Inconceivably Connected podcast. I'm your host and fellow donor conceived person, Nick Ludwig. On this week's episode, I'll be joined by Lori, who, by sheer coincidence, happens to live barely 10 minutes away from me on Long Island. Another reminder that we truly don't have to look too far away sometimes to find others in our community. Lori's story is one that explores a number of different emotional states, but perhaps the strongest of them all, at least in our conversation, was that of denial. And not from her, but from one of her parents. There are so many variables at play when the truth finally comes out, and the way the dust ultimately settles is near impossible to predict. But denial is one element of dealing with the truth coming out that seems to pop up in notable amounts for donor-conceived people. How are we to manage and deal with those closest to us if they show an unwillingness to come to terms with the truth of our reality? That's a question that, though it pertains directly to Lori's DCP experience, is really a much broader one that just about all of us are faced with in modern society. In the end, the truth will always prevail. And now, it's time to hear Lori's.
Hi, my name's Lori. I live on Long Island, New York. I'm 43 years old, and I'm going to share my DNA discovery story with you all. So starting in about 2018, kind of looking for some distraction in life, and a friend from high school posted on her Facebook that she had done her 23andMe test and learned all these really cool nationalities that she was. And I thought to myself, well, that's a good distraction. Let me try to do that. And I got a nice little discount coupon code for it from her. And I, ordered my test, spit in the tube, sent it off. My goal at that point was, growing up, I was Irish, Scottish on my mom's side, and I was Scandinavian on my dad's side. And what I was always told was I was Norwegian, but there might be a little Swedish in there. And I guess if you're Norwegian, you don't want to be Swedish and vice versa. So it was like some type of a scandal that happened somewhere in the family line. And so my thought was, I'm going to do this test and I'll be able to, figure that out right off the get-go. So I sent my results in. It was probably early September. It was before the whole Christmas rush. So I didn't have to worry about, how it would take weeks and weeks and weeks to get your test results after Christmas. So on October 22nd of 2018, I got my results. I got that little email. And when I opened up the app, it was like the circle was like all different colors. So it was showing I was way more than the 3 or possibly 4 nationalities that I thought I was. So I initially focused on the fact that I found out I was Ashkenazi Jewish. And I have always been really fascinated with the Jewish culture. And I have friends that I have worked with, and I've just always asked tons of questions about their culture and everything. So the first thing I did was text and call every Jewish person I know to tell them that, guess what, I am part Jewish. The next thing I did was kind of looked at it a little bit closer, and there were some other like weird things. I was very, very little bit Scandinavian, which is not at all what I expected. The Irish and the Scottish was there, and there was like I was Spanish, I was Cuban, there was Portuguese, there was all sorts of crazy things to me. They seemed very different and definitely not what I was expecting. So the next thing I did was I took a screenshot of it and I sent it to my cousins on the paternal side. Now, I didn't do any research on 23andMe at all beforehand, and I had no idea that you connected to family members. I strictly thought it just told you your nationalities. So I thought when I shared this picture with my cousins that I was actually like explaining to them, look guys, like we're not just Scandinavian. Look at all these other cool things we are. And I was surprised to get the response back from my cousin that she was like, wait a minute, that's not what my test shows. And then she sent me a picture of hers, and hers was like all Scandinavian. And I'm like, well, that's weird. So then we checked with my other cousin who had similar results like her also. So I was like, okay, this is bizarre. So my parents live fairly local to me. So I call them on the phone and I'm just like, I'm still so excited to know that I'm Jewish. So that was my first phone call, was like, I call them and I'm just like, guess what? We're Jewish. We're Jewish. Like, you're never going to believe this. We're not just Scandinavian. And the reaction that I got from my parents was very odd. Um, Almost like literally they were telling me they don't believe in this stuff. That can't be real. There's no possible way. Um, and they seemed angry, like at me, and I didn't understand that at all.
Hmm.
So then I thought a little more about it. My dad's sister, the dad that raised me, his sister was significantly older than him. I want to say like 11 or 12 years older than him. And she had passed by this point, but she had always joked around growing up that her little brother was adopted. And we always thought, she was making fun of her little brother. But then my next thought went to, oh my God, what if he was really adopted? And all that time she wasn't just teasing him. So I thought it was actually my dad's secret that I was uncovering here.
Hmm.
So I kind of mentioned that to my dad, like, Dad, maybe you were adopted. And he went along with it. Yeah, maybe that was it. And there's nobody on, his parents are gone, his sister's gone. So there's nobody else to check with on that.
Right.
So he kind of like went with that story. So I was like, all right. But it bothered me. It bugged me for a while. Like, their reaction just seemed off. In the meantime, I'm just so excited. I'm sharing my results everywhere, not even knowing what I'm actually sharing about. So that Christmas, my brother and his family live in North Carolina. This is the brother I was raised with. They came up for Christmas time. And so I was, like I said, I was very excited to learn I was Jewish. So I actually decorated part of my house for Hanukkah.
Uh-huh.
So my 7-year-old niece, she was 7 at the time, she said something. We were all out to lunch one day and she goes, Aunt Lori, so if you're part Jewish, that must mean I'm part Jewish also. And before she could even actually finish the question, my mom like jumped down her throat. Don't be ridiculous. Absolutely not. Don't be ridiculous. And everyone's sitting there at the table like, what is that? Like, what is that all about? So it was all kind of weird and unsettling. And it was sitting inside of me trying to figure out like something's weird here, but I can't figure out what. So my family all leaves and it's December 29th of 2018. These are like dates I will never forget.
Just ingrained in your memory.
Oh yeah. December 29th of 2018, I get a text on 23andMe. And like it was like an alert that went off. That was like an unusual alert I wasn't used to hearing. And it was a message through 23andMe. So like I pick it up and I look at it and it says I have a message. So I'm like expecting it to be, some like sixth cousin. That's usually who like reaches out. And I open up the message and it was this girl who said, 23andMe says we're sisters. And I was like, wait, sisters? That's so cool. I've always wanted a sister. Like, this is getting cooler and cooler by the minute.
Yeah.
I'm a very intelligent person, I swear. And I'm a nurse. Like, I understand how this stuff works.
Hmm.
And I still couldn't, like, it wasn't registering in my head that for me to have a sister, that means we share parents or at least one parent. It like wasn't clicking. So I was super excited and we were like messaging back and forth a little bit, trying to figure it out. She had grown up, like she was born on Long Island also. So we were like, maybe her dad and my mom had an affair because her results kind of were what she was expecting. So we figured her dad must have been my biological father.
Uh-huh.
But like, my mom is so straight and like, I mean, she doesn't even curse. So like the idea that she would cheat on my father was so far-fetched, but how else do you explain it?
Yeah.
So based on how the reactions that I had already gotten when I did approach her, because now I was like, well, I can't go talk to my dad because this is a bigger secret, Let me get this settled with my mom first. So based on how she reacted, I was like, let me go get like another DNA test. So I order Ancestry because I figure if you have 2 tests with the same results, you can't tell me it's not real.
Yeah.
So now it's like right after Christmas, of course. So it takes forever to get these results back. But I get them back and I'm ready to like, I open them up and my sister, my new sister, got her results a few days after me because she said, I'll do the test too. Let's see if we connect again on there too, you know? And so I got my test results a couple days before her. And when I opened it up, I was like, there's more of us. Like, we have more siblings. There was another half brother and a half sister. And I'm like, this is weird. Because now this is like a bigger story, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so those two siblings, half siblings that were on Ancestry, they knew their story. They knew they were donor conceived since they were fairly young. So my brother's account was run by his mother for some reason. I think she was trying to find the donor. So initially she messaged me and was asking me, like, who the donor, or is my dad like a med student, or is he a doctor now? Like, was he a med student at this time? Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, what are you talking about? You know, like,
Mm-hmm.
and then I was like, I don't think this is right. Like, I think this is a different situation, you know? And then the new sister that I connected with on Ancestry started talking and sharing the same story. So we're like, wow, like, that's gotta be what it is then. We're donor conceived. And I remembered growing up, my parents sharing, they had like miscarriages. I don't recall them ever talking about having fertility issues, but there is like a 4-year age difference between my brother and I. And, you know, this was like in the 70s. I was born in 82, but like they were, you know, to have my brother, it took them many years from when they got married. So like the goal for that age group really was like, you get married and you have kids right away. And it took them a lot longer to do that. So like looking back on it, like I can see it. They probably were having a lot of fertility issues. Well, now I know they were, but so I have this information. I go to my mother's house one day because now I'm also thinking, okay, well, she didn't have an affair, which definitely sounds more like her, right? Like I can't imagine her having an affair. But I was like, I wonder if she told my dad she was using a donor to get pregnant, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, not going to go to my dad just yet. So I approached my mom, just me and her, and I'm just like, so you know, what's going on here? Like, I need to know why my DNA doesn't make sense. Like, I think that's literally what I said to her. I need to understand this. And I was like a mess about it. I was like, I showed up at her doorstep with just crying already, like butterflies in my stomach. I was so anxious, and I knew something was bigger than what I was being told. And my mom sat there on her couch right across from me and basically denied everything. I have no idea why this would show this. This doesn't make any sense. She even went as far as to say, maybe your dad did this to me behind my back. I'm not quite sure how she thinks that could have happened. But I imagine it was just anything to sort of keep her secret close. So she was just grasping at straws. And then I asked her, well, Mom, you know, like I have siblings, like these half siblings are showing up. And so if you didn't agree to this, like we got a bigger issue here. Like this is like a legal situation now, you know? And she's just basically sticking to her story. She knew nothing about it. So once I was connected with these siblings, so I told you my brother's account was run by his mom, and she was kind of like a strange bird. So we sort of stopped communicating with her early. We kept just asking her, like, please tell him, you know, here's our email addresses, here's our phone numbers. If he wants to connect with us, reach out. But my two new sisters, I mean, it was like an instant connection. Like, it's almost weird how it wasn't weird for the three of us. Like, we just instantly got along. And so the three of us were like texting nonstop day after day. And my one sister, who was the one we found, the second one I found, she was like an internet sleuth. And I think within 24 hours even, she was able to like start to narrow down who our donor was and the family that we come from and all this stuff. And so the alarming thing at that point was when we figured it out, or when she figured it out, there was two brothers that we could have been from, and both of them had passed away. One of them passed away in his like late 30s, and the other one passed away in his 40s. And now here we are at that point in our late 30s, and we're like, that's scary, you know, like how did these people pass away so young? Like what's wrong? What's going on in our family history?
Yeah.
Medical history. So they also had a sister, so our aunt, we attempted to reach out to her and message with her through the, 23andMe ancestry, whichever one it was, but she was really not receptive. Didn't really want to share much information or ask information from us. She just really wasn't interested. So we got nowhere with that. So the next relative that was still around was actually the donor's mother, so our grandmother. And, of course, she's like in her late 80s. And we're like, oh, we don't want to like disrupt this woman's life. And, we were scared. So my sister's like, well, I'm going to write her a handwritten letter and I'm going to include my phone number. And, if she calls, and we'll go from there. So she sends this letter. And my grandmother actually lives up in Hudson, New York. So she's also a New Yorker. But she was like, they all lived in New York, herself and her, family. So they were local to New York. It made sense. So anyway, so she got the letter, and I think she called my sister like that day. And right off the bat, she says, I have to ask you a question. So there's 4 of siblings at this point. And she's just like, I have to ask you a question. Do any of the kids have multiple sclerosis? And my sister's like, no, not that I'm aware of. I mean, I only just started talking to these people, but it was one of my grandmother's like biggest concerns because, as it turns out, the brother that was the NYU med student who was the donor had died from complications related to MS in his 40s. Mm-hmm. So when she heard that he had kids, because he didn't have any other, he didn't have kids on his own. Well, he didn't think he had kids on his own, I guess. That was her first worry. Like, oh my God, did he pass this down to somebody? So we kind of kept in communication for a while, all of 2019. We all decide in January of 2020, we're going to get together. And just the sisters, the brother never really got in touch with us. So just the sisters and my grandmother, we decide we're all going to go meet up in Hudson, New York, rent an Airbnb, stay there for like a long weekend, and get to know each other. And so it's like, I guess like 3.5 hours or so from here. And the whole drive up, I'm totally fine until I'm about 5 minutes away. And I'm like, I don't know these people. And I'm about to stay in a house with them. And like, what if they're serial killers? Like, I don't know anything about these people, but I was so comfortable with just talking to them all the time that it didn't seem weird to me. And I had like a little blip of anxiety right before I got there. And then it was like smooth sailing. Again, we met at like a restaurant first. So we got to kind of break the ice, just me and my sisters first. And it was so cool because it was almost like meeting up with a friend you just haven't seen in a really long time.
Yeah.
It felt like we just fit together. I don't know how else to explain that. So the plan was that we were going to go over to my grandmother's house then. So we go down the block from our Airbnb where we were staying and knock on the grandmother's door, and she opens the door and we go in this house. And I mean, her house is like a museum. So one thing I didn't say was that the reason why we were able to find our family members on the internet so easily is because they're people that are like well known in history, which I wouldn't say famous necessarily, but well known. So my grandmother is a famous Latina American artist. So when we went into her house, it was like a museum. I mean, there was her artwork everywhere, but also like all these other famous artists, And like she's telling us stories about how she met like Picasso and like all this crazy stuff, We're like, where are we, But the weirdest thing for me was I was sitting in her living room, and I'll never forget staring at her like from across the room and literally thinking to myself, oh my God, this is my face in 50 years. Yeah. Like I couldn't even believe it. I was actually speechless about it. Mm-hmm. And I grew up, and it's funny, like questioning if I was adopted my whole life. And I remember always asking about my nose, and I would be like, where does this nose come from? Nobody has this nose. And I was always told, oh, it's the great Nordic nose on your father's side of the family. And I mean, I would like scrutinize pictures of my father, and he did not have the same nose as me. Like I knew it. And I just always wondered where my nose came from. And sitting there in the living room with my grandmother, I was like, that is my nose. it was such a surreal experience to finally find someone that you look like,
Hmm.
and like you can see similarities in. And just being that I was the kind of kid that was always looking for that stuff because I did think I was like adopted. And to have that, it was such a like heavy experience. Wonderful, but very heavy. Um, she had also like she had asked us, bring a 23andMe test with you when you come, and I'll take the test too, so we can just have final answers for everything. And so we did, and so she did her 23andMe test and sent it off, and of course, the results came back conclusive. She is definitely our grandmother. Um, so that was in January of 2020. It was an amazing, weekend getting to know them and spending time with them. And like I said before, it was almost weird how not weird it was.
Right.
Um, After that, the world shut down with COVID and whatnot. So we didn't get to see each other for a while. We stayed in touch though, talking on the phone all the time, texting all the time, doing FaceTime calls or, when we could, and just trying to stay in touch. In the meantime, back on my reality back home, I had tried approaching my mom, a couple of times and really was going nowhere with this. And I even got to the point where I called the clinic where the fertility doctor where my siblings' parents said they had gone to, and it was the same doctor. So I was like, all right, I called them. The man is retired, but I asked the office. I was like, what was your consenting process like in like the early 80s? I mean, nobody there could give me definitive answers, but basically they were like, we destroyed all records of that stuff many years ago. So they don't have any records, because that was initially, I was like, I want my medical records, my mom's medical records. But they couldn't give me that. So the next step was just to find out, like, you had to have asked my mom's permission to do this, correct? Like there's no way that this was done without her knowledge, right? And I mean, they told me yes, but obviously, like, they're not going to be like, oh yeah, we were very unethical and we didn't get consent. What are you talking about? But I believed it because, the more people that I would talk to that used this doctor, like their parents were saying it, like, yes, of course we got consent. We knew what was going on and whatever. And basically what they were telling the parents at that point was, we're going to take, they tested my father's sperm. It was, I think, like poor swimmers or low count, whatever it was. It wasn't working. It couldn't get it couldn't get my mom pregnant. So they would mix it, right? So they would find a med student, and supposedly the doctor was getting a med student that was similar in appearance, similar nationalities, and high intelligence level, because my parents were, they both had like college degrees and master's degrees and whatever. So this is all they knew about the donor that was used to create their child, which is still like so mind blowing to me, because I have like 400 questions at least, like,
Yeah.
give me 5 minutes. I could probably come up with another 400, but like, that was it. And the doctors, they swore them to, like, you never have to tell anybody. Don't ever tell anybody that this is happening. You never have to tell anyone. No one will ever know. And, you're going to go home, have intercourse tonight, so that it makes you feel like even more so like this happened naturally. And that was what they believed.
Hmm.
So I would keep going to my mom. I went to her quite a few times over the years. And now we're going into like 2021. So we're like 3 years in. And I mean, she's still just denying. And I'm like, I know this, like, I knew she was lying to me by this point. Even my other sister's mother had, said, yes, I did this, so it's like
Right.
everyone else's parents are admitting to it. Can you please just help me out here? Like,
Yeah.
and as time was going on, it was really affecting me. Like, my mental health severely was impacted by this. Because, I'm going through this struggle of like, figuring out, like, who am I? Like, my identity just shifted, right? Like, I grew up this white Christian girl, and now I'm learning that I have like Hispanic in me. I have Spanish, I have Portuguese, like, I have Jewish, like, all these things that I never ever knew. And so it's like a culture shock, right? Because it's like,
Sure.
I feel like I can't call myself a Latina because I didn't grow up as one. You know what I mean? And it's like,
Yeah.
when you fill out those boxes, like you have to check off your race. Like, I'm like, what the hell do I even like check off now? Like, I don't know. And so anyway, it was just like super confusing, and it really did affect my mental health a lot. I was very withdrawn because I didn't want to be around my parents. I knew they were lying. I knew she was lying to me. My dad had already lied to me, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Now, if I could stop you quickly, do you think that your mom, was she consciously withholding this truth, or do you think that she had convinced herself so deeply of this lie that it became her truth somehow?
Yeah. You know, I go back and forth about that. I think initially, when I first confronted them with this, I think that was what it was. She had just convinced herself over the years that this was the truth. And so when she first was answering, absolutely not. But then I also think about the way she reacted to me. It wasn't so innocent, you know? She was angry. So like her initial response to me was anger, that I like uncovered this truth that was supposed to, like, you know, go to the grave with her.
Mm-hmm.
And so I go back and forth on it. I think that she listened blindly to what the doctor told her to do. And because it was a doctor and that was, you know, such a prestigious profession, this is what the doctor says, this is what you do. And I think she just went with it. And, you know, now we have limited conversations, but we can talk about it now. But that's pretty much what she says. Like, well, you know, the doctor just said this, so this is what we did. But as the child that was created out of this, you know, I do have a tough time with that because, like, I'm a mom, and they saw what this was doing to me. My parents saw it, you know, they saw me. My mom, I remember saying, like, how I seemed so withdrawn and I wasn't as close with them and stuff. And so they could feel it.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of coming and talking to me about like what's going on, like, let's sit down and have a conversation. I mean, my God, by this point, I'm like 40, 41 years old, you know, it's like, we can chat about this, guys. Like, it's okay.
Yeah.
The other interesting thing was, so at the end of 2019 and early 2020, I was actually my husband and I were having fertility issues of our own. And I was going to a fertility doctor, and she knew this. And I mean, I didn't have to go to the point of having to use a donor, but she knew the struggles I was going through. And like, it bothers me that, like, if there was ever a time to like connect with your daughter about something, I mean, my God, like, the struggles that she had been through, like, we could have connected at that point, sit down and talk to me about it, you know? And like, thank God, like, I got pregnant and I have my daughter. And to me, it's not a secret to talk about fertility struggles, but I understand that's a generational thing also.
Right.
And I'm not saying that they need to like broadcast this in any way, but I wish that they could be more comfortable talking to me about it.
Yeah.
Because that's really what has created so much tension in our relationship now.
Mm-hmm. So you have that confrontation with your mom initially.
Yeah.
When did your dad come into the mix and become aware of all of these new things that you were discovering? And how did that play out?
So I guess what happened was, when I found out I was pregnant with my daughter, so this would have been like, it was literally right when the world shut down. I had just learned I was pregnant. So like this time, 5 years ago, mid-March, 5 years ago, I came to this idea that I was like, I can't focus on all of this stuff right now because I want to have a healthy pregnancy. I don't want anything to go wrong. So I called my mom and I said, you know, listen, like, I just don't want to focus on this stuff anymore. And I'm struggling with it, but I'm going to put it on the back burner right now because I have some more important things that I'm dealing with. And then she actually said, you know, well, how is everything going with the fertility doctor? And that was how I told her I was pregnant. And like, that's not how I wanted to do it at all, but it's okay. You know, I said, listen, I need you to talk to dad. I need you to tell dad that I found all this stuff out. Like, I didn't know if she had been talking to him over the years. I had no idea.
Yeah.
And I was scared because I was like, if I was like anyone in my family that I was raised with, it was my dad. Like we have the same silly sense of humor, the love for stupid dad jokes, like lightheartedness, and we're very similar in our personalities. So for me to learn that I was not biologically related to him, like it really broke my heart. And I can only imagine them getting my dad especially getting that confirmation now that I wasn't. It probably shattered his heart into a million pieces as well. And every time I would have a conversation with my new siblings or with my new grandmother, I felt like I was in some weird way cheating on my dad, because I was like, I want to get to know these people. But by accepting a relationship and developing a relationship with these new people, does that make my dad feel like he's not as important or put on the back burner? I just didn't want him to feel any kind of way about it.
Yeah.
So anyway, after we got off that phone call, she went to talk to him. I mean, within a few minutes, he called me and he was like, congratulations, about the pregnancy. And then he said, Mom told me what happened, about everything. And he says, the first phone call you made to us about, all excited that I was Jewish, that first phone call, he said, I knew right from that call. This is like a year and a half, 2 years or so after that call, and nobody came to talk to me, so he knew. He said the next thing out of his mouth was, and if you don't mind, could we just keep this between the three of us? They didn't know I was like meeting family and stuff yet, but
Yeah.
and I just kind of said to him, I was like, listen, right now, this is all going on the back burner for me. So, but I just felt like that was such an awful request to expect me to just, let's just pretend like none of this was really happening. And I think from his standpoint, from my mom's standpoint, it's like, we raised you and we brought you up and we gave you everything you needed throughout life. So that should be enough. You shouldn't need these other people in your life. Like, who are they really? You don't really know them,
Yeah.
I've worked very, very hard on managing through all of this. I started in April of 2021. I started seeing a therapist who has been crucial to my growth with this. I still see her 4 years later. I still see her, and she actually, because of me, has developed a specialty working with donor conceived or people with NPE experiences. So she does telehealth. I can certainly share her information to anybody in New York that would be interested in, seeking out therapy. But she's been a crucial part in my healing, and a lot of things came out by starting therapy. I don't know if you've ever done therapy, but that's usually how it goes. And all of a sudden, I start sharing things, and it was so much more than just this DNA discovery.
Yeah.
My childhood was really good on the outside. I had never had to ask for anything. I was so spoiled. We went on amazing vacations. I saw like all parts of this country before other people had even left the state. I was very well taken care of in that regard. The one thing my parents were not good at, even as a child, and it shows now too, was the emotional support. There was events that happened in my childhood that they just wanted to kind of pretend didn't happen, sweep it under the rug, let's move on, And so it's really no surprise now that that's exactly what they want to do with this giant, elephant in the room. Let's just not talk about it. It'll go away,
Yeah. Yeah.
So, it was an interesting revelation to sort of discover this. As time went on, I'm going to speed forward a little bit. I think it was like early 22. I was like, I can't do this. I can't do this anymore. This is so ridiculous. Like, I see my parents. I can't even like talk to them. Meanwhile, by this time now, my kids and my husband have met my siblings and my grandmother, and I'm like, my kids are going to start talking about this. I'm not going to tell them they can't talk about it. So I sat both of them down. I went to their house one day, just the three of us. This way they couldn't get distracted by the kids or anything. And I just said to them, I was like, I need you guys to understand that this has impacted me tremendously. And I have been suffering by keeping this inside, and I need you to know that I will no longer do that. I'm not going to do this for you anymore. My mom is sitting right next to my dad on the couch. My dad starts singing like a bird, telling me every detail about the doctor, where he was located in Manhattan. Like, he knew the cross streets. He's telling me the whole process, procedure. And I'm sitting there like, oh my God, why didn't I go to him first? Like, Jesus, I kept this a secret thinking I was protecting him. And I would have saved myself if I had just gone to talk to him first, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I would have saved myself so much stress. Whatever. My mom is sitting right next to him. And I'm not even kidding you when I tell you that the first thing out of her mouth after he divulges all of this is, I don't remember any of this.
Wow.
And I'm just like, that is some heavy layer of denial that you're living through, that he just went through every single detail. And you were the one the procedure happened to, right? Like, you were the one that had to lay there and had this done to you and all that. And yet you don't remember. Like, come on, I'm not buying it. So I asked them at that point, I have an older brother. And I said to them, well, how did you get pregnant with him? And this is when they shared with me, we followed the same procedure. And I'm like, well, did you tell him? Like, it's been like 4 or 5 years at this point, and like, you see how our relationship has changed. Like, did you think at any time, like, did you learn anything and you went and go tell him? No, we haven't told him anything. Like, oh my God, you guys have to tell him. Mm-hmm. And now by this point, they know that my bio dad died from MS. They know about the medical history side of it. So I'm like, if for nothing else, I'm like, he has 3 daughters, right? My mom is a breast cancer survivor. So I'm like, what if the donor for my brother, like, if breast cancer runs in that side of the family too, and now those 3 daughters of his are at such a higher risk. Like, they need to know this stuff, if for no other reason, just for medical history. So they're like, oh, I guess you're right. So they say they're gonna talk to him, but they want to do it in person. Okay, fine. So they were going down for like a vacation to go visit them in North Carolina. So right before the trip, I went to my mom and I said, so are you planning on talking to him? Are you going to tell him? And she's like, well, I guess if your dad doesn't bring it up, I'll have to. So that right there told me, like, they're not going to do this. Like, I knew. Mm-hmm. They go down for the week. They come back up, and I just had this gut feeling. So I'm like closer with my brother's wife than I really am with my brother. It's getting better now that we're older, but like, we had a tough childhood together. So I'm much closer with her though, and I'm much more comfortable sharing things with her. So she's known bits and pieces of my DNA situation, and she has actually spoken to my brother about it, and he was upset. He felt like I was opening Pandora's box by going into all this and whatever. He didn't think I should have done it. She tried to explain to him, like, that's not why she took the test. This was like, she never thought this was what she was going to find out, but whatever. So I called her up right after they got back, and I was like, so when my mom and dad were down there, did they talk to you guys or my brother about any of the DNA stuff? And she's like, oh, you mean like about like your stuff, or is there more? I'm like, no, there's more. And so now I'm like, you know what? I can't keep this a secret. If nothing else, they need to know, like, she can go and talk to him. And if they decide to do nothing with that information, then at least I did my part in this. Yep. So I tell her, she's shocked, and she's like, all right, I'm going to talk to him and whatever. And then I kind of like leave it alone, and I let it sit with them. Fast forward, I guess, a few months after that, and I have a full-blown explosion on my mother. I am not a yeller by nature. I am not an angry person at all, but I couldn't take it anymore. It broke me. And I just lost it. And I mean, I was cursing and screaming, like, I am not proud of my behavior. And I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing, but my Ring camera caught the entire thing. So I have video of the whole entire rant that I went on. So I don't know, every once in a while I do go back and look at it. Initially it was very emotional for me to see. Now I kind of like, I'm like, yeah, I'm proud of you, Lori. Like, you finally spoke up. Yeah. Yeah, because like that was always a big thing for me, is I was always like the kid that was like the easy kid, the good kid. I didn't ruffle feathers. I didn't, and like that was what they wanted because it was much easier to parent me that way, you know?
Hmm.
So this was like the explosion of a lifetime when I tell you. I don't think I've ever yelled and cursed as much as I did in that 10-minute time span. And I have it all on video. One day I'll share it with the world. It's great. But anyway, um, but I say it straight out in it. I'm like, you know, like, what have you been thinking? Like, where's your head at? Like, what's going on? Like, how have you not tried to talk to me or anything? And like, I literally said, can I curse on this?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I was
And
like,
we'll figure
I
out
am
if it stays in or not. We can always
okay,
edit. But
fine.
yeah,
You
yeah,
can
whatever you have
you
to
can
say.
beep you can beep it out if you need to, but I was like, I am fucked up over this. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? How do you see your daughter suffering the way that I am and you don't fucking do anything? And I mean, I'm screaming and I'm banging on like the stair rail that's like right next to me and everything. Like I said, the ring camera caught it all. It
Yeah.
was quite a production. And then I go through this whole thing, and then at the very end of this, I look at her and she said, because the God's honest truth is I just don't remember.
Wow.
And Nick, I couldn't even look at her. It was that moment that I said, our relationship can never be the same. You know, like I was so hopeful that we could get back to a place of, you know, closeness. And the fact that she still couldn't own it. My father told me every single detail,
Yeah.
and she still couldn't just say, Lori, this is what I did. I'm sorry I never told you. I fucked up and that was wrong. You know, like I really, really, I just needed her to do that. And even in that moment, she still chose to lie. And then throw God into it. Come on. So
Now, quick question: Are your parents, are they together
they are
or?
together. So they've been married forever. Yeah, they've been together
Mhm.
for a long time.
Got it. So your dad came clean in the presence of your mother,
Yes,
and then your mother is doubling and tripling down on
yes.
not
The
having,
lie.
yeah, the memory of any of this. I wonder. It makes me wonder what their conversations are like with each other, and if there's,
Well,
yeah, maybe you could
it
shine a
made
light
me,
on that.
it made me wonder the same. And I actually did eventually talk to them about that. So after that explosion, I'll get to that 1 second. After that explosion, um, I didn't see them for a couple of months. I just needed time. And so when I finally saw them again, things had sort of settled down. I apologized for my behavior. I said I shouldn't have yelled at you and I certainly shouldn't have cursed at you like that, but I was just beyond. I was just broken at that point. And I got kind of like a half-assed apology. I'm sorry. I think I just convinced myself that it didn't really happen and that none of it was true and whatever. And it was a very quick done. But Nick, by that point, I had already like shut my emotions off with her, you know? And here's like one thing that I do not like liars. I teach my kids, this is my quote that like when people are going to quote me in like, you know, 40, 50 years from now, this is my quote. A bad truth is always better than a good lie. And I stand by that. I would rather you tell me the worst possible thing in the world, but have it be the truth than just sugarcoat and lie to me. And my parents know that. And so much so that growing up, when I would like be dating a guy and I would introduce him, my dad would say to him, just never lie to her. As long as you never tell her a lie, you guys will be okay. So they knew how I felt about honesty. I mean, let's be real. Who probably introduced the idea of honesty to me? My parents probably taught me honesty is the best policy, you know? So anyway, so I get this little half-ass apology. Time goes on and I start deciding like I just don't care anymore. Like I am randomly talking about my brothers and because then another brother popped up. So there's 5 of us total now. And that brother we do like stay in communication with. So I talk them about my brothers and my sisters. I tell them about my grandmother who is like this famous artist and like she has had art shows in Brooklyn that I've gone to. I mean, she's like incredible. And she's like 93 years old now, you know? And I go up there a couple times a year just so I can see her. And I literally look like her. But now here's the other crazy thing. Not only do I look like her, But my whole life, I've always been a doodler, a drawer, a painter. Nobody ever could understand where, and I was good at it, and nobody could ever understood, like, where's that talent coming from? And now it was like, oh, that's where it came from. Like, and it's interesting because we have very similar styles also. A friend of mine just recently pointed that out because I have like pictures of my grandmother's stuff around the house, and which is even funnier because my parents come here, of course. And she says, like, she's seen my drawings and stuff, and she's like, I can see like the similarities in your styles and everything. So to me, that is like the biggest compliment. And to know that that talent and that passion that I have comes from somewhere was so huge, because my family was not artistic. They didn't, like, nourish that side of me. They didn't take me to art classes and things like that. It was like, art, okay, you just do that for fun on the side. The other interesting thing was, I told you earlier that I'm a nurse. When I first started my career many years ago now, I spent majority of my 18-year career now in cardiology. My grandmother's father, so my great-grandfather, this is another person that would pop up when we were Googling. He was a world-renowned cardiologist, and he actually did research that helped to develop transplants, to do organ transplants. He traveled the world with an artificial heart. I can't even imagine what that must have looked like back then. Like, they had to travel on boats. It was probably like massive, but he was involved in all of that. And then again, the family I was raised with, everyone's a teacher. So I was the odd man out, like my interests were off, my like passions were different. So it was so cool to learn not only the medical stuff, like where that comes from, like that interest, but the art too. Like, it was just really cool to like connect those things to somebody finally. But anyway, I digress. So I got to a point where I just started talking about my new family whenever I wanted to. Like, I just wasn't going to keep it a secret anymore, because I don't want to. And I told them straight out, my kids know everything. I will not lie to my kids, age appropriate, of course. But my son is 12. He knows everything. My little one's 4. So she's obviously, a little more limited in what she knows. But like, I'm not going to keep secrets, and I'm not going to feel shame associated with my creation. Like, that's not fair for me to have to live a secret. I can't share my nationalities because then that gives away your secret or something. Like, that's not fair to me. This is my life. This is my story. And now it's going to be passed down to my children too. So they deserve to know it also. So I had that conversation with them, and then at one point I actually sat down and I asked my mom exactly what you just said to me. Like, did you guys ever talk about this? Like, after I first brought this up, like when I called you the first time, did you guys ever have a conversation like, oh God, she figured it out, like together? Never. She says they never ever talked about it. Isn't that insane?
Wow.
I tell my husband everything. So
yeah, yeah. Same. My wife knows
even,
every single detail about everything in my life too.
And like, this is such a major, major thing. And like, your daughter is unraveling this, and in real time, you guys aren't even discussing this, like after she leaves or something.
Which is interesting because your dad at a certain point said, you know what, the cat's out of the bag now. I'm gonna, expose what I know. But if this is the truth, still seemed to draw a line when it came to conversations between him and your mom.
Yeah, he defended her behavior even a little bit, that she was trying to like cover it up for him and his protection or whatever. She was lying for him. I remember him saying something like that at one point, and I was just like, why? You're telling the truth. Why would she keep? I mean, she's sitting right next to you when you're saying it. You're still gonna lie? This is like a joke at this point. This is just ridiculous. Ridiculous.
Yeah. So, so your brother, who you said is 6 years older, what happened in his case? Because there's a possibility that he's not biologically connected as well, right? So is there more to his end of the story, or have they chosen to keep it more of a private matter?
Yeah, so he's 4 years, not 6 years older than me, but he my sister-in-law spoke with him, told him everything I've shared with her, and he just really doesn't even want to discuss it. It's like he doesn't talk about it. My parents have never talked to him about it. I told my parents, the most recent conversation I had with my parents about all this was probably like 6 months ago or so. And I came right out and I just told them, like, I told his wife, like, she knows. So that means he knows. And I'm not keeping secrets, and everybody knows everything. And we're done with this. Like, we're done pretending this doesn't exist. Most recently, I was actually just down in North Carolina for February break. So, last summer, I started having some like health issues. And it started with like, well, I've had a lot of weird health issues throughout my life, but this time, like, I was having this pain in my feet. It was getting more and more like intolerable. So I finally went to a podiatrist, and I'm like, oh my God, like, I'm in my 40s, like, I'm getting old. That's what this is. This is like, I'm going to need old lady shoes now. I go to see this podiatrist thinking I'm going to get like orthotics, and he ends up telling me, he does his exam, and he's like, this is something neurological. And so he's like, I need you to go see a neurologist. And so he gives me the name of somebody. And I mean, my heart immediately sunk, because the first thing that starts popping up in my head is like, oh my God, is this MS? I'm okay. So they call it the nurse curse, when you know too much and you either are a hypochondriac or you ignore symptoms. So now that he has said you need to go see a neurologist, I start thinking about all the symptoms of weird things that I have, and I'm putting pieces together, and I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I ignored all these things individually. And now when you put them all together, I see this picture. So long story short, this past almost, I guess, like 9 months or so at this point now, I have gone to a neurologist. I have had a significant amount of MRIs and blood tests and all sorts of other exams and whatnot. And I am actually under the care of an MS specialist now. And I'm not diagnosed with anything as of right now. I go back to see him in a few weeks again. But, there's a very real possibility that I have MS right now, or some other neurological condition. And God, it makes me so angry. I mean, scared and sad and all these other things. But anger was the first emotion I felt, because number one, I was angry at my donor, my bio dad. His name is Pablo. And I was like, he knew he had MS already at that point. I'm like, why would you donate? Like, you were a doctor, you were in med school, at least, like, why would you donate? Then I was mad at the doctor. Like, did you ask for a health history? And if you did ask for a health history and he told you, why did you ignore it? Then I was angry at my parents. Like, how could you not ask any more questions? How could you never think of this stuff? And then I most recently have just gotten to this point of like, where whatever it is, like, having that anger is not serving me anything but adding more stress, which causes more pain and more symptoms for me. But yeah, it's like another twist that has come from this whole DNA discovery. And like, I'm like 6.5 years in now since I first had this discovery. And it's like, what else is going to pop up? It just feels like things just keep coming around. And it's just hard. I don't think anybody other than people who live this, like us, really can wrap their heads around it. And I'm very fortunate that I have a small group, but I have a group, my circle, people who, they just have empathy, and they've been my support. And without them, I could not have gotten through these last 6.5 years. And my therapist, gotta always shout her out.
Give a shout out.
She's incredible. I can't even say it enough.
Yeah, and that was leading me to my next question, which was, you've had a number of different obstacles to deal with along the way here, and challenges that are still ongoing. What have you found to be, you've kind of answered this, but I'm curious if there's maybe more than, just the therapist. What have you found to be most helpful in dealing with, your realities of life?
So definitely, therapy is one piece of it, but just talking about it in general, the social media, like all the support groups on Facebook have been huge. I became part of like this Togetherness Heals Like retreat group. I've gone on a retreat once last year. I'm going to go again next month. Being with people like me helps me. The other thing that I've done is I do yoga regularly. I've added meditation into my practice now also. I draw a lot. I really truly art has helped me through a lot of issues throughout my life. I really believe in art therapy. Um, even just stuff like this, like sharing my story, knowing, listen, I'm a nurse. My goal in life is to help others, right? Like that's why I joined this profession. So if I can share my story, if that helps somebody new who's just having their discovery, I'll share it. I've actually met, and now that I know that you are also local, we might be bringing you along, but I have met a few local donor conceived people. We're going out to dinner this Saturday night, and it's like those types of groups, being able to share this without judgment with people who get it, with people who don't come back with the, well, your dad is still your dad. Like that's probably my, like, I hated when people would say that to me, or, oh, you were so wanted. It's like, okay, great. Like, what about all the rest of this though? I think all of that combined has been, for me, every single piece of that has been part of my healing. And I'm still going through it. I've been with my therapist for 4 years. I have no intention of stopping anytime soon. It's huge. It's just huge.
Yeah. Yeah. Coming together with a community of like-minded and similarly experienced people, I think is what can really make you feel less alone.
Absolutely.
So the path forward for you, thinking about like present day and how this factors into your life, what does that look like? Have you seen any more willingness in the people closest to you to sort of embrace the new truth of how you came to be, or do you still feel like there's reluctance around it all?
Yeah. I think it depends on the person. So throughout this 6-year journey, 6+ years now, I've lost people in my life. I had really, really close friends that couldn't support me through this and turned away from me, and it ultimately ended our friendships. And these were girls I had been friends with since childhood. And that's really sad. But what I have learned is that I need to focus on people who put effort into me, people who, pour into my cup. I'm going to pour back into their cup. And it can't be unbalanced, like that. My path forward, I just want to keep talking about this. Talking to me is healing. I mean, I went out a few nights ago with a friend. We went to an art class together, and I haven't known her for very long because she's one of like the baseball moms. Our sons play baseball together. And I've wanted to share my story with them. And so I did. And it feels so good every time. I don't feel like I have to hide anymore. Um, it's unfair for anybody to expect somebody to like not be able to talk about like who you are. Like I'm still figuring it out, right? At 43, I thought I knew who I was, 5 years ago. And then all this stuff happened, and now here I am like redefining my life. But I'm in a much better place now, surrounded by the right people. And like I said, the circle's much smaller, but it's a really strong circle. And I'm grateful for what I have. Still have rough times, still have bad days, of course, but overall, I have gotten to a point where I'm healing. It's an ongoing thing, but I've come a long way from where I used to be. So I think just continuing to do exactly as I'm doing, and as I continue to grow, and I only added meditation into my daily routine like 2 weeks ago. So that's a new thing, and who knows what's more to come. I'm open to doing whatever I need to do to feel good. Wherever this medical issue takes me now, that might open up another challenge for me to kind of have to face, but it's also another opportunity for me to share, and maybe I can even help future recipient parents understand the importance of, anonymous sperm donation or anonymous egg donation, whatever, is not acceptable because of reasons like this. Like I shouldn't have only been looking into this at 43 years old. I should have been starting 20 years ago when I first started with like bizarre symptoms. So who knows? Once I heal a little more, I think then I can put more effort into like the legislative side and things of that nature. But right now, I'm content with my progress and my slow movement forward. So
Good. And I couldn't
yeah.
agree more that talking about it all is what
Oh,
really
so
makes
good.
things so much easier, because in a lot of ways it's almost like the louder your voice gets, the stronger the filter in your life becomes for, allowing good in versus sending the not so good out.
Right. And if people don't treat you right, if people aren't good to you, if people aren't empathetic for like when you're going through tough times, that's one thing I've learned. Like you have to, I'm a good person. And my best friend tells me, like, it is a privilege to be my friend. It is a privilege to have me in her life. And like, I get emotional when I say that out loud because when she said that to me, it really turned things around for me. And it really made me look at who I was allowing access into my life that shouldn't be there and that don't deserve a place in my life. And so, I wish that I could repair my relationship with my parents a little bit more if I had like one wish. But honestly, I'm also content with where things have landed with them. I got to a point of accepting that this might be as close as we get again. Like we may never be like we used to be, but I have to accept they have done what they thought was the right thing to do, the best thing to do, and holding on to again that anger or those heavy emotions towards them, it doesn't do anything except cause me more problems. I want them in my children's lives. They're amazing grandparents. I want my kids to grow up knowing their grandparents. And so if I have to kind of put my own stuff to the side a little bit, but heal, like in an appropriate way, it's not like hiding anymore. I'm okay doing that.
Yeah.
The boundaries have been set and we're all respectful of them at this point.
Right. That all makes sense. Um, any closing thoughts that you feel maybe haven't come up in the conversation just yet, or that you think are worthwhile for sharing with anyone who's listening to this?
Yeah, I mean, one thing I just really want anybody new kind of coming into this discovery, you're not alone because I feel like that is so often the first thing people think when they make a discovery like this. And our parents carry a lot of shame for some reason, or many of our parents, let me say, carry shame related to the process of what they had to go through in order to have children. We don't agree with it, right? We're from a different generation. But there's like millions of us out there. And even if you're not going to get the answers and the support from the people that created you, um, there's help. And I really think that's like the number one thing. Like we just talked about it, like togetherness, like being with like-minded people and being able to share without judgment. I mean, it's like so key. I also think everybody should be hooked up with a therapist. I really believe that that is such a huge piece to get through it. But you got to do your research because some therapists are not the right fit. You got to find like a really good one, and they are hard to find. But take care of yourselves. Like that's got to be number one. For the first half of my discovery, I feel like everything I did was for my parents. Like I'm going to keep this hush hush and I'm not going to talk about it a lot. I don't want to ruffle any feathers. And it's like, but this is my life too. And so it took a turn, I guess, probably around the 3 or 4 year mark where I was like, all right, enough of this. Like, I want my story to be heard too. And so that's a big piece of it. This is your life. And if you want to talk about it, you talk about it. And if you want to do it in private, you do it in private. But however you're comfortable, you share your story, you know. It's your decision to make. I think I think the biggest takeaway I want people to hear though is that you are not alone. Like there is tons of support out there. You just gotta, you know, look for it. Especially like social media. I mean, it couldn't be made any easier these days. So it's great. Like you could get on, Instagram or Facebook or Reddit or anything, TikTok. Like there's so many social media pages now that you can find, people just like us. So you're never alone.
And it should only become easier to find people like us as more and more
Yes.
people take these tests.
Take their tests. Yes.
Yeah. I want to give a big thanks to Lori for sharing her story with us. There are a number of heavy hitter aspects to this one, and I truly applaud her willingness to give us all a peek into what her journey as a donor-conceived person has been like. If you're enjoying these episodes, please consider sharing with others and leaving a 5-star rating or review. And if you'd like to know more about my own story, give a search for Inconceivably Connected, a true story of shocking DNA results and chasing the unknown. There's a whole book out there with my version of discovering I'm donor-conceived. The music, editing, and production of the Inconceivably Connected podcast were done by myself, Nick Ludwig. And if you're donor-conceived and would like to share your story on the podcast, please fill out the quick form linked in the episode description of any episodes that have come out so far. If you've previously emailed inconceivablyconnected@gmail.com, I'd kindly ask you to fill this form out instead, please. That's all until next week. See you later.